All right, what's going on YouTube? What's up, Raider Nation? I'm Bubba the Raider. Um, just a little bit here. Gonna talk to you a little bit about what I saw last night in the Week 3 preseason game against the Green Bay Packers. Pretty up and down game. I'm not freaking out like a bunch of people I've seen about certain things, and some things I'm definitely freaking out. My biggest takeaway: Donald Penn looked like crap last night. That is why I believe Derek Carr got pulled so early. You saw, he thought he was going to go, "What's up, Timmy? How's your summer going, bud?" So that was why you saw, he thought he was going to play a quarter and a half into the second quarter, and he got pulled pretty early. And I really think that was because Donald Penn did not look good last night. Um, Backup quarterbacks, awful. Backup quarterbacks were absolutely atrocious last night, making some really ill-advised throws, fumbling the ball, all around sucking. So I don't know, couldn't even throw dump offs. Like everyone saw that, and Connor Cook did it a few times too. EJ Manuel fumbling the ball, trying to dump the ball off and throwing it like a yard short on a dump off when there's no pressure in his face. It just was sloppy, sloppy, sloppy quarterback play. Um, People, what I'm not jumping the gun on that I've seen a lot of people jumping the gun on a little bit is Doug Martin. I know he didn't look great last night, but neither did our offensive line as a whole. Um, I wouldn't say they looked bad. I thought you've been sending it a lot. Hi, Allie. Hate you. Just kidding. I love you. Tim's been sending it with his buddies. Sorry, chat. But yeah, so, Doug Martin, he didn't look great. Offensive line looked okay. Donald Penn sucked. But Colton Miller, I was kind of impressed with. Thought a couple plays, he didn't look great. But at the end of the day, he's a rookie. And he's going against guys like Muhammad Wilkerson, who are very proven veterans. Chris Warren, I think, is going to make this team. I'm not jumping the reaction on him. I'm not saying, he's going to start and he's going to do all these things, but I think he's a solid player who's going to look good for us. You saw that Derek Carr and Amari Cooper connection, and that was pretty cool to see. Wish I would have seen more, but it looked pretty good. Starters look good. I thought the defense played really well. My sister's in the chats agreeing with me. She can agree with the fact that the Chiefs look like crap. Their defense looked really bad too. So, so anyway, she's a Chiefs fan. She's got an ugly tattoo on her neck of the Chiefs logo. It's gross. But yeah, so what else? What else? Really, really, those are the huge takeaways I took. I think some of the guys who looked really good, Fatal Brown looked really good. Maurice Hurst. Um, PJ Hall looked good, even though he didn't have any huge plays. Arden Key looked better than he had the week before. I'm trying to think. Markel Lee looked pretty good. Derek Johnson looked a little slow. I am huge. First player I want the Raiders to cut is Kyle Wilbur. I mentioned that before. I don't think he's looked good this preseason. I think we roll with Markel Lee and Derek Johnson. And I really like that kid from Penn State, undrafted rookie, Jason Kabinda. So I think those should be our three middle linebackers for sure. I think he's looked really good. Again, not like, he's going to be a star Luke Kuechly good, but like solid depth player. Those are the kind of things we need. See what else. Tight ends looked all right. Wide receivers looked all right. It was a game where our defense looked a lot better than our offense. But it's also a game where our defense was playing against second string offense. Um, and Aaron Rodgers didn't play. Randall Cobb didn't play. I almost said Jordy Nelson didn't play, but he plays for us. So Randall Cobb didn't play. Devontae Adams didn't play. So all sorts of players didn't play for the Packers, which is awesome, but it's also concerning because it's kind of the same. They had some guys on defense that didn't play too, not as much. Clay Matthews played, and HaHa Clinton Dix played, and Hamid Wilkerson. Like I said, they had some pretty good players, but our offense starting offense looked good, but after that point, it didn't look great until Chris Warren had his touchdown run. Mike Nugent missed a pretty key kick, and I think that just kind of goes to show, if he comes back, that's got to be Eddie Piñeiro's job. I haven't been too incredibly impressed with Johnny Townsend yet, but maybe that's just because my whole life, or my whole football watching life, we've had Shane Leckler, and think what you want about him, but Marquette King, yes, he was a personality. Yes, he was kind of a locker room cancer by accounts, but he could punt the ball. And so I'm not watching that same explosion come off of Townsend's foot like it did with those two guys. So, let me think, what else? Garyon Conley didn't play very much last night. Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie looked all right. Looked better than I thought he would. I'm really excited about our defensive line. And if we can get Khalil in there, having Bruce Irvin, Arden Key, Khalil Mack off the edge. Justin Ellis looked good last night. Mario Edwards Jr. looked good last night. P.J. Hall, Eddie Vanderdoes, and Maurice Hurst. That is a good group of guys to have. Tell Jeremy I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Haven't been sending it much this summer, but doing well. So, linebackers, I'm excited about Tahir Whitehead. Rashawn Melvin got burned pretty good on one, but he slipped. All in all, it was an okay game. Pretty sloppy. But I'm not panicking. We've got a big test coming up week 1 against the Rams, and that's going to be a tough one. And we can't go, don't get me wrong, we can't go out there and play like crap, but I was listening to someone on Fox Sports Radio today talk about, I don't know if Jared Goff hasn't played in the preseason or what the deal is, but they think he might be rusty. They're not playing him. And I'm not saying Derek Carr's been out there playing for a lot of time, but, Goff is young, and if he's not getting the practice in, even that Derek Carr's getting, then Derek Carr might have a little bit of an edge. He has an edge in the fact that he's a better quarterback anyway, but, that every snap could help. Week 1's also an anomaly because, any team can really, week 1 is not really a teller. I mean, it is a teller, but it's not really a teller of where your team is. Your team is not in mid-season form. You don't have film to watch of these guys. Everyone just kind of comes out there, catches each other by surprise. Chiefs did it last year with the Patriots. It just always kind of happens. But I also am a firm believer that winning week 1 can be an extremely crucial game for the Raiders. You look back, I've said that for years and years and years. And last year was the first year where it kind of backfired. But, I tell my wife, I told her all the time, you look back over the span from the Super Bowl run until 2 seasons back when we made the playoffs. And in that time, between those 2 seasons, we won week 1 only one time. And it was one of the years, I think it was the year with Hugh Jackson, where we went 8-8, which was the best we had done. Every other year, we had lost in week 1, setting us off, I felt like, on the wrong foot. So then we came out week 1, had that incredible, nail-biting, gut-wrenching, go-for-2 at the end game against the Saints, and that's how we started our season off. That was the tempo that we started the season off. And that was incredible, right? And we turned that momentum into playoff run. However, we won week 1 last year and week 2. And we, week 1 against the Titans, week 2 against the Jets, and we didn't have a good year. And the Rams is a tough one. But I think Gruden's been calling pretty vanilla stuff for a reason. I think that, there's some cuts to be made, some tough decisions, but I really hope week 1, and I think week 1 will come out ready to play football. So there's that. Everyone has penciled in the Rams to be really, really good, and I have too. I'm guilty of that as well. They've added so much talent to that team. However, remember back in 2008, 2009, whatever, when the Eagles did that, adding all those pieces around them, adding Nnamdi Asomugha, taking him from us, and everyone thought they were going to be so good, and they just weren't good. So, we could come out there week 1 and absolutely stomp the Rams. It's just going to take a lot of hitting on all cylinders for that to happen, and I firmly believe it can happen, and we just need to go out there and do it. Marshawn's got to have a big game. And our offensive line needs to block. And that's going to be the big thing because, they've got just a disgusting defensive line with Ndamukong Suh. And if he's back on the squad by then, Aaron Donald. And then they've got a really, really good secondary with Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib. And so it's like they can hurt you anyway you want to go. So we really need to have the offensive line block, and that's going to be the first step. It's going to be one in the trenches, and that's what's going to have to happen. Same on defense, man. You got to get pressure on Goff, and you have to stop Todd Gurley. And the defensive line is going to be paramount in that. So, I'm not saying anything you don't know. I'm not saying anything that's not common sense football, but that's where games are going to be won and lost this year, is with the offensive and the defensive line. And people will put blame on Carr and put blame on other stuff, and that's true that plays a factor. But really, if the offensive line isn't playing well, it's going to be really hard for Derek Carr to play well. It's going to be really hard for Marshawn Lynch to bust big runs. Offensive line didn't play well last night, and you know what? Doug Martin didn't look good. And I'm not saying that's why he didn't look good. I'm just saying that's a correlation. Marshawn Lynch, did he even run the ball last night? I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe once. But, we struggled to run the ball last night. Chris Warren had a couple good ones, but that was late in the game. You saw Donald Penn get straight up driven right back into Derek Carr's lap. And Colton Miller got beat a few times, but ended up with the second effort getting Derek the time he needs to create the pocket. So, they didn't play great. They didn't look like they did 2 years ago. And when they look like they did 2 years ago, before minus the Derek Carr injury, we go to the playoffs. When they look like they did last year, and that's a big, Rodney Hudson's incredible. Kelechi Osemele is really good. Gabe Jackson is probably my favorite offensive lineman in all of football, right? Donald Penn wasn't good last year. Wasn't great. And he looked really, really bad last night. And that was a big thing I saw. So he needs to step that up. He needs to figure out what he's doing. And he's coming off of an injury. That's not an excuse. But I said in my video before the game yesterday, man, one of you guys asked me how bad our safety situation is. I think it was just a comment well, boy, how bad is our safety situation? And you know what? It is pretty bad. And I said, makes me question the Colton Miller pick. But I'll tell you what, after watching that game last night, that was the right pick, because Donald Penn looked old, slow, hurt, fat. He looked all of those things. Colton Miller definitely looked like the better offensive lineman last night as a rookie. So, I can definitely see we're not going to go anywhere without Derek Carr being, hi, babe, without Derek Carr being able to stay upright. And Colton Miller, hopefully, moving forward, is going to be a cornerstone in that. So, I'm trying to think what else. I'll touch on offense, defense, special teams. Some cuts that I can foresee happening. Hopefully, Kyle Wilbur, like I said. We're going to cut some of these corners for sure. We just have too many. I think Leon Hall is just too old. I kind of want him to be one. I think we're going to keep DRC. We'll keep Melvin. We'll keep Worley. We'll keep Conley, obviously. So that's DRC, Melvin, Worley, Conley. That's 4. We'll keep Nick Nelson. And then it's kind of a toss-up. I like Sharice Wright. Those are kind of the guys I think we're going to keep. Linebackers, I think we'll keep Lemur, Johnson, Lee. I hope we keep Kabinda. He's a guy I'm pretty big on. Whitehead. We'll keep another Morrow. And I'm not sure. I think we'll keep Tank Carradine and Fatal Brown. And those defensive line I talked about, we already have defensive tackle depth. Trayvon Hester might be gone. He hasn't looked nearly as good as he did last year. I think in terms of I know we have to swallow his salary unless we can trade him, I think is what I heard. At least that's what Mikey Rader was saying. But I think Seth Roberts needs to go. I think our wide receiver core should look like Amari, Jordy Nelson, Martavis Bryant, and then I think 2 guys who have we should keep 5. 2 guys who have specific roles that they play in certain situations would be Marcel Aitman. He looked really good. He's really big. He's a great red zone threat that can catch contested balls in the end zone, in the red zone. And I think we need to keep Johnny Holton because he gives us that Tyreek Hill-esque component to our offense, the speed. So we have one guy that's big and strong and one guy who's fast. And I think that needs to be our core 5 wide receivers, and everyone else can kind of kick rocks. Tight ends, we're going to keep 3. We're going to keep Lee Smith, Jared Cook, and Derek Carrier. I don't know if this all adds up even. Running backs, 4. I think we'll keep Richard, Lynch, Warren, and Martin. I'm not sure about the rest, Eric Harris will stay on the team. Carl Joseph, I just read a thing about how he's been backing up Eric Harris. So Carl Joseph's, obviously, he's like one of my favorite players. Oops, sorry. Gilchrist, I think, stays on the team. I don't know if anyone signed Eric Reed, and I know that, politics aside, I'm not going to get into my political opinion on the stuff with the kneeling and everything like that. I'm just not going to go there for a multitude of reasons. Number 1, I am a teacher. I have kids who, like you saw earlier, I was talking to one of my students in the chat who watch this, and I would never want any of my students to feel like just because, I teach teenagers, so they're sometimes not the best at super rational, it wouldn't be unheard of for a teenager to hear, Mr. Johnson that thinks differently than I do, he must hate me, those kind of things. I just don't want that in my classroom, so I don't go political. They hear my opinions on football, and I definitely make it known that, if one of them is a Bronco fan, they're not welcome in my classroom. If one of them, I'm just kidding, but not really. Stay out of my class. No, I just don't. I'm not going to go there in the public. If you ever run into me and we're one-on-one, I'm more than willing and open to have that conversation, but I don't post that publicly. So I'm not going to get into it, but I think Eric Reed is someone who, if he's still a free agent, is a phenomenal football player. And if you can deal with the distraction or whatever of his statements, which he should be able to, because Marshawn Lynch doesn't stand for the national anthem. So, you know what I mean? But he could be someone who could really improve our safety position. So those are just some of my thoughts. Wrapping up, we're going into week 4. Week 4, I don't expect to see our starters play much, if at all. Although I hope Colton Miller does, because he can use the reps. We're going into Seattle on Thursday, 7:30. I might be going to that game. So, but yeah, maybe surprising my little brother with his birthday present to that game. So I'm not sure, but I'm all looking around to make sure they're in bed. But you know, I'll let you guys know if I'm doing that or not. I've never been to one before, so I think that'd be kind of cool. Seattle's about a 6-hour drive from where I live, so we'll see. But week 4, preseason, wrap it up, head on into the regular season, and that's when games start mattering. So I'm looking forward to it. Real excited. Anyway, let me know what you think. If you agree with me, go ahead and leave it in the comments. If you disagree, go ahead and disagree. Like this video, do that. Dislike it. Subscribe if you haven't, and just win, baby.